Welcome to today's update on the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In the latest developments, we are seeing some critical movements on the battlefield, which have significant implications for both sides. Let's dive into what has recently happened and what this could mean moving forward. Earlier today, General Alexander Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, received disturbing news from the front lines. In the Kursk direction, reports emerged that Russian forces had successfully entered the city of Selidovo. This was confirmed by war correspondents from both Russian and Ukrainian sides, stating that on October 20th, 2024, around 3 p.m. Moscow time, Russian troops managed to infiltrate the eastern part of Selidovo. The Russian army didn't just stop there. They immediately began securing their positions in the east and advanced to cover the city from both the northeast and southeast, creating a potential encirclement. This information wasn't just coming from the Russian side. Ukrainian telegram channels, often used by military personnel for updates, also confirmed the news. The reports indicated that Ukrainian commanders acknowledged the Russian advance. A Ukrainian officer, known by the call sign Muchnoy, further verified the entry of Russian troops into this critical city. According to him, Russian assault groups had already gained control over several streets in the eastern residential areas of Selidovo. These neighborhoods are mostly made up of private homes, which the Russians are now using to strengthen their foothold. Despite this progress, the Ukrainian officer assured that the overall situation was not yet lost. He explained that Ukraine's main defense line was still held in the area where multi-story buildings stand. These taller structures offer Ukrainian forces better defensive capabilities, giving them a strategic advantage in the city's urban environment. However, the officer warned that the situation remains tense. Russian air and artillery forces have been relentlessly bombarding Ukrainian positions, even during the night, indicating that this is likely just the beginning of a larger coordinated assault by the Russian military. In addition to the constant artillery shelling, Russian reconnaissance and sabotage teams have been reported working actively in the central, northern, and southern parts of Selidovo. This kind of tactical infiltration usually means that the Russians are setting the stage for a more extensive offensive. It is becoming clear that they aim to capture the entire city, and they are employing a combination of air power, artillery, and special operations units to weaken Ukrainian defenses before launching a full-scale attack. Western military analysts have been closely following these developments, and many are skeptical about Ukraine's ability to maintain control over Selidovo. Several experts believe that Ukrainian forces may have no choice but to retreat from the city in the coming weeks. They fear that if the Ukrainian troops remain too long, they could find themselves surrounded by Russian forces, making any escape extremely difficult. In a related event, the Russian Ministry of Defense officially confirmed that their forces had taken control of the nearby village of Zorianoye, located northeast of Kharkiv. This further consolidates Russian gains in the region. But the bad news for Ukraine did not stop with Selidovo. In another critical incident on October 20th, 2024, the Ukrainian army faced significant losses during an attempted offensive in the village of Tsukurino, also in the Kursk area. Early that morning, Ukrainian forces, consisting of 70 soldiers and 3 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, launched an attack from the village of Selidovo. Their objective was to dislodge Russian troops from Tsukurino. However, the operation quickly went wrong. One of the Bradleys hit a mine, rendering it inoperable almost immediately. Then just moments later, a second Bradley became stuck in the thick mud, a common issue in combat zones that can quickly turn dire. The third Bradley attempted to pull its stranded companion out of the mud, but was also unable to do so. In a frustrating turn of events, it too became trapped. With no other options left, the Ukrainian soldiers were forced to destroy all 3 vehicles to prevent them from falling into Russian hands. As the mission had already spiraled into disaster, the Ukrainian troops had no choice but to retreat to their starting position in Novoselidovo. The losses were severe. 60 soldiers were killed, and all 3 Bradleys were lost. This sequence of unfortunate events underscores the challenges Ukraine is facing in this particular sector of the front. The combination of poor terrain conditions, effective Russian defenses, and the relentless artillery and air attacks has placed enormous pressure on Ukrainian forces. While they continue to fight back, the situation remains critical as they deal with these mounting setbacks. The situation for the Ukrainian army in the Kursk region has taken a severe turn for the worse over the last 24 hours. Russian sources claim that Ukrainian forces in the Kharkiv district have been fully neutralized, with the remaining units now trapped in what is known as a cauldron, a military term for a large-scale encirclement. Ukrainian troops are surrounded, with Russian forces attempting to seal off the last narrow escape route in the area. This bottleneck is the only passage left for the Ukrainian army to avoid being completely split in two. Russian troops are reportedly close to closing it off entirely, which would sever the Ukrainian units into isolated groups, cutting them off from reinforcements and supplies. The Ukrainian military command is aware of the situation and has been sending in their last remaining reserves, hoping to push back Russian advances and prevent the complete entrapment of their forces. These repeated counterattacks, however, come at a heavy cost. Ukrainian troops are suffering major losses in both soldiers and military equipment as they try to prevent the collapse of their positions in the Kursk region. Despite their efforts, the tide appears to be turning against them. According to official reports from Russia's Ministry of Defense, in just the past 24 hours, Ukrainian forces in the Kharkiv and Sudzhansky districts have lost 420 soldiers, 5 artillery units, and 10 armored vehicles. Since early August, the Ukrainian army has reportedly lost an overwhelming 25,000 soldiers, along with hundreds of vehicles, including 170 tanks and nearly 1,000 armored fighting vehicles. Meanwhile, the Russian military has been launching large-scale missile attacks on Ukraine. On the night of October 20th, dozens of ballistic and cruise missiles were fired across Ukrainian territory. In an effort to locate Ukrainian air defense systems, the Russian forces also deployed around 90 uranium kamikaze drones. Independent monitors reported multiple explosions in regions such as Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv, and Dnipropetrovsk, signaling the widespread nature of the strikes. In the Zaporizhia region, a large ammunition depot in the northwestern part of the city was destroyed by Russian ballistic missiles. Reports indicate that in addition to the loss of the warehouse, around 30 Ukrainian soldiers stationed there were killed. In Kharkiv, Russian kamikaze drones and guided bombs targeted temporary bases housing both Ukrainian soldiers and foreign mercenaries. Early estimates suggest that this attack resulted in around 50 Ukrainian troops and 20 foreign fighters being killed. In the Ivano-Frankivsk and Lviv regions, at least 7 explosions were recorded, though specific details about the destruction remain unclear. However, in the Dnipropetrovsk region, a major strike took place in KRYVYI RIH, where a Russian Iskander-M missile hit the hotel DRUZBA. Reports suggest that British and U.S. officers were present at the hotel at the time of the attack, working on upgrading the AN/MLQ-40 Prophet tactical signal intelligence system for the Ukrainian military. Though local authorities have tried to downplay the results of the strike, Russian sources claim that the bodies of 20 foreign citizens have already been recovered from the rubble. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this update, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future content. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate your support.